the last round of
Horror Show.
Christmas comes but once a year, now it's here, now it's here.
Every doll must have a head and also have a body.
Welcome to the last Roundup Horror Show. I am Frank.
I'm Jared.
Jason.
There we go. And this is our Christmas episode.
Merry Christmas.
Hold on. Before we get started, I got Christmas gifts.
Oh, no.
Oh, shit. I forgot your Christmas gift.
We were doing Christmas gifts?
I didn't get you.
You didn't get the memo.
No, I didn't know we were doing it.
I didn't get you anything, Frank.
Yeah,
No, I didn't get you anything.
I didn't get a chance to wrap it. I was lazy.
I got Christmas gifts for the band.
Well, that's
Wow.
nice. That's
Everybody in the
nice.
band. I got you all Christmas gifts.
Thanks for
New
the heads
drums
up.
for you, of course.
Oh, yeah?
But if you already got me a Christmas gift. then-
Take one down, pass it
Oh,
around.
God.
Oh, he's got the fucking real shit.
Holy shit.
Right
Check
there.
it out. Wow.
Fucking grape.
I had to get one, too.
Nice.
It's been years.
Where did you even get this at?
Southside.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
That's the only place you can probably get
It's
it.
the only flavor they have, too.
I have 2 packs of Big League Chew now, but only one grape.
Ground ball grape.
Fuck.
Anyway, Merry Christmas.
Thanks, man. The official bubble gum of Ripken Baseball. Whatever that means.
Cal Ripken?
We're sponsored now.
Was it Cal Ripken?
Yeah, I guess so.
I got look at that wave. I got really loud.
Ooh, yeah. Got excited with the gum.
You blew up my wave with that great Big League Chew.
Yeah. So we watched some films, some Christmas oriented films.
Holidays.
We just decided to go with the 3 that pop up whenever you type Christmas into Shudder. Of course, I saw there were some other ones I think we would have rather watched that popped up
On there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
You can't.
You
but
probably could have went with holiday instead of writing Christmas and only getting ones with Christmas in the title.
That's true.
I do want to see that.
Holidays. You haven't seen that yet?
Nope.
That's a good one.
I didn't even know it was a movie. I was just
Definitely
saying.
more
yeah,
more
sure,
Christmas
sure.
movies.
You haven't seen it either?
I didn't even know it was a movie.
Oh yeah, they go through. There's a like a horror scene, like it's what do you call those movies? It's like VHS and
Anthologies.
Yeah, it's an anthology movie for each holiday.
Gotcha.
It's really good, man. The Easter one.
I have seen it.
The Easter
I
one?
forgot about the Easter. The
Yeah.
Easter one's the best one with the little bunny that hops around.
Yeah,
Fuck, I have
fucked up.
seen it.
but these are Christmas oriented. There's not. What other holidays would be? Is there a Hanukkah oriented slasher movie or something?
Probably. I mean, I imagine there's a horror movie out for every possible holiday.
But the first one we want to we're just going in order of years. 1974, Black Christmas came out, and this movie here's the synopsis. During their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger. This was directed by Bob Clark. Do you know what he did, Jason? You got any notes?
I don't have no notes on
No.
this, but
He did Porky's 2, Christmas Story, and Rhinestone. Anybody seen Rhinestone?
cut me off.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, have you ever seen Rhinestone?
No.
It's Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton. That's like a musical.
Sylvester Stallone musical sounds
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. The screenplay plays by Roy Moore, who evidently had nothing on his IMDb because I didn't write it down.
Had Lois Lane in it.
Lois Lane from like the Superman movies.
Margot Kidder.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And John Saxon.
Love John Saxon.
Yeah.
Had you guys watched this one
he's
before?
the detective.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not
Is
sure.
this like I don't know that it's the first, but this one's always held as one of the first of the slasher trope kind of
Yeah. Although
setup.
one of the things I liked about this, because like
This way, it was 4 years before Halloween. 4 was Halloween 78?
Um,
This one's 74. A couple years before Halloween. Whatever.
the thing I liked about it was that it was set at Christmas, but the killer was not infatuated with Christmas. He was just fucked up, like really fucked up, dude. I love the first-person perspective shots that they did through a lot of it when it was the killer. It's like it was. I wonder how they did it though, because it's way before GoPro technology, but it looks just like the first GoPro video you would ever see.
Yeah, I still like this one. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I like watching it too because there's a lot of the slasher, the killer perspective. It's a lot of everything from slasher, but since slashers didn't have a formula yet, it doesn't just do that.
Well, you can definitely see like Friday the 13th was probably influenced by the way this was shot.
Well, and I think John Carpenter even said he was influenced by it for Halloween.
Oh yeah. They call this guy this guy like calls them all the time, and they call him minor league. But the fucking phone calls that this guy's putting together are
crazy,
like masterpieces of producing. They had to produce this shit, man. There's like a baby crying in the background. He's talking to himself. It's like
and in the 70s.
Yeah,
that ain't just fucking cut and paste shit.
He doesn't have a computer.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Look, who is this?
Stop.
What do you want? Why are you doing this? Who are you? For God's sake, what are you doing?
I know what you did, Billy! Filthy Billy! 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 Billy!
Stop this!
Those ladies should be not only terrified but highly fucking impressed, because even if they think it's just a prank call, man, that's genius work. That's
Now I'm quite scared. But the quality you've done putting this together, fantastic.
for sure.
He might, if he got the appreciation, might not even wanted to kill people.
Yeah,
We know because we didn't find out who it is. We don't know his motive. Maybe it was just mad.
So,
guys.
Sorority house.
So get to the point.
There's a sorority house.
Yeah.
This minor league. Would you call him like he's not always being sexual? There's some sexual noises going on, but
He says like, "What you put the baby? You put the baby."
he's tormenting these girls. And then that's where it kind of takes off. What is the motive?
You don't find out because you never find out who he is.
Yeah, that's the cool part about it.
I don't really need one,
No,
to be
no.
honest. When he kills the girl and puts the plastic over her head, like that shot right there, that's as good as anything in horror there is. That shot right there. I mean, just you could give him credit for knowing ahead of time what that shot was going to be, but now looking on it now, that's beautiful. This movie is beautiful. Yeah. It starts right from the get go. Silent Night.
Yeah.
For the when the movies start, they're playing Silent Night. I love everything about it. I love the music.
I think it holds up really well.
Yeah. And also was cool for me was this was my first time viewing the Scream Factory release, and it's 2K restoration. It's beautiful. So that was really cool too.
I think that if you could smell this movie, it would smell like cedarwood, Virginia Slims, and like whiskey, because that's like they just are drinking constantly.
I
like the atmosphere.
Yeah, it was moody
I
as shit.
really love like the college slashers.
Yeah,
I love that.
And doing a serious horror movie and keeping comedy in it, I always thought this one is a good example of how it's done perfectly. There's funny stuff in it,
Right.
but it's not laugh out loud funny. It's just at the right moments. It's just like when she's when the one girl with the bag over her head, when her dad comes, he's trying to find her, and he's talking to whoever the lady that watches them is, and like she's doing the hand over the people making the peace sign while having sex, kind of just the small stuff. And her, I mean, she's obviously the comic relief. She's goofy, she's funny, but it doesn't take you out of
all the acting. I thought was great too.
Yeah.
Great acting, great music, atmosphere, had everything for me.
The kill scene with the glass unicorn, and it was panning back and forth between the kids singing Christmas carols, and like just the shots in that segment were fucking artwork. Like it was beautiful. The probably the
well
best,
shot. A lot of
the best scene in the movie.
Like I swear it has some like the ass shot on Texas Chainsaw. Where she's walking up to the house. Like that's an iconic shot. And I think this movie's loaded with 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, I gave this an 8 out of 10. There was it was a little bit long at places, like the turtle sex scene was pointless. And then when the guy was bashing the piano, I was like, this is pointless exposition that doesn't need to be.
He had to make his point. He was frustrated.
He's mad, man.
But that turtle sex scene could have been completely eliminated.
What do you got against turtle sex?
Well, it was just, it was
Have you ever heard that noise? You seen that video? that noise that turtle's making? You guys seen it?
I don't think so. Go on YouTube.
Miller's like, let me tell you about fucking
the
turtle
noise.
sex.
Oh my god, I can't believe you haven't seen it.
Okay, well here, I'll put it right here.
Yes. Anyway, I give this an 8 too.
I give it a 9.
Whoa.
Look how close we are on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, I give it a 9.
It's the holidays. It feels good, don't it? Christmas spirit.
I always give this one an extra little bit of credit because it's probably just something that comes with being one of the first kind of that slasher. But when you go back and rewatch a lot of the slashers, as much as I still love the old Halloweens, Friday the 13th, any of them, by the time those were really coming out, they had fallen into very cut and paste formulaic. This is how you do it. That one I think holds up a little better because it was before there was a cut and paste. So it's got everything that you want in a slasher movie, but it never did it in the way that everything else fell into. It has a different feel. So it's still one of my top slasher movies.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and spoil it because the ending, whenever the guy's still in the fucking house and they just leave the girl unconscious on her bed, is fucking awesome. The phone just keeps ringing after he's done fucking killed her in there. It just starts ringing and it's just the static shot of the house with the guy standing outside. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I was surprised we picked this one because
it was just
it's well known, but I guess it's
Shudder.
the holidays episode and
yeah.
How many
there's definitely a lot of good Christmas ones out there. We could have done more, but
yeah, I saw some on Netflix.
This was easy.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna complain because you guys, Frank said we're gonna watch it, and I was like, yeah, I want to watch that.
Yeah,
it's Christmas.
All right, well, let's go into the news.
And now the last round of Horror Show news.
Here's some news for you. Guardians of the Galaxy writer and director James Gunn is returning to his horror roots with a new movie that will begin filming in 2018. He's brought us Slither in 2006, and he's worked on some trauma stuff before that. So stay tuned for more info. Netflix is going to release Mike Flanagan's finished but shelved Before I Wake. He's done Gerald's Game, a Stephen King story that's now on Netflix, and some other horror stuff. Check out that trailer, Before I Wake. Make up your own mind. The original Michael Myers, Nick Castle, will return to his role in the new Halloween, set to release October 19th, 2018. Also coming aboard on Halloween, Academy Award-winning makeup and effects artist Christopher Nelson. He's done Suicide Squad, Deadpool, Sin City, and Kill Bill 1 and 2. So Small glimmers of hope for Halloween. Last but not least, a couple Blu-ray releases. December 19th, we have Suspiria, a brand new 4K transfer. I cannot wait to get my hands on this, one of my favorite movies. Also on the 19th, Leatherface. December 26th, we have Jeepers Creepers 3. And a couple on January 2nd. Hell Night, finally getting a Blu-ray release. I'll be picking that up as soon as possible as well. And The House is October Built Part 2. That's it for the news.
Back from the news.
And we're back.
We're back from the news.
That was a quick one.
Yeah.
Or long. We don't.
Moving into 1980. Remember that, guys?
Do any of us remember 1980?
Alive in 1980.
No. Just missing all of us.
Christmas Evil. A toy factory worker, mentally scarred as a child upon learning Santa Claus is not real, suffers a nervous breakdown after being belittled at work and embarks on a Yuletide killing spree. This is written and directed by Lewis Jackson, known for a movie called Transformation, A Sandwich of Nightmares. I could not find this anywhere, but I really wanted to fucking find it, whatever the hell that is. He also plays a bartender. The director plays a bartender at the Christmas party in The Office. And this movie was made because of Halloween. The success of Halloween allowed this to be made. They were sitting on it for quite a while. Little fact here, Fiona Apple's dad is the guy, is the killer.
No idea.
Fiona Apple?
Yeah, I know Fiona. I know Fiona. Yeah.
Her dad is the killer dude.
Oh.
You can go sprinkle that one around.
Yeah, just go tell that to people
public.
Up
Hey.
at work.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
let me tell you something.
This was also known as "You Better Watch Out."
Yeah, that's what it said on the fucking when you watch it.
I didn't know that.
I wonder why they changed it. What do you think?
I don't know.
Whenever I think that the dude's so fucked up because whenever he not only finds out that Santa isn't real, he finds out that his dad is like a real weird leg guy. That's like, like really, yeah, like that's all. It was really, it was really fucked up, wasn't it? You would think he would have been finally onto something else at some point, but no. I think if he would have just found out one of the two things, he probably wouldn't have been insane. I really liked it when he was rocking back and forth and singing violently the Christmas songs to himself. That was pretty funny. Any highlights from you guys? What do you got?
I think what's the main actor's name?
His name is
Did we get that?
Brandon Maggart.
Brandon Maggart. I think the job he did as his character is the best part of the movie. Yeah, this movie wasn't one that. It's not awful. It's not like I sat there being like, "Oh dear God, end, please end." But it didn't really. There's not a lot that hits on it. He did a good job though.
Well, the movie is mostly just him, and the first kill scene when he stabs the guy through the eyeball with is it a soldier? Like a sword?
Yeah. They're like the scene outside the church. Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Will you tell our viewers if you just arrived? How was the trip down? Oh, and I see you've given up your reindeer for more modern wheels.
And the soup, too.
Oh, excellent. Just ravishing. Who does that tailoring? Come now, sir.
Haven't you had enough?
I have something for you.
I have superlative taste.
That's a good scene.
I like a lot of scenes. I like it when he rehearses fucking Merry Christmas outside of the hospital.
Merry Christmas! 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 Merry Merry Christmas!
Where did you come from?
That's great.
He has quite a few good scenes,
Hmm.
but there's not a lot else in the movie. Once if it's not him in a cool scene, there's whatever you're watching is just gonna.
I think my favorite scene overall is the end, whenever his brother falls down what is clearly like a bedspread covered in fake snow.
Yeah, the fake snow in it's just a big blanket.
And then he flies off into the moon.
Yeah, the end. The end is something. It's something.
I love this movie. The beginning, the Santa Claus and that mom scene. If I would have seen my mom, or what was it? Is it the kid's mom or was it the kid's dad?
It was a mom and dad.
Yeah, it was both. His dad dressed as
They
Santa.
saw Santa come down the chimney and everything.
If I would have seen that, my life would have been wrecked. And then another thing that kind of caught my attention to kind of let me know what year we're living in. Like there was when the mom slaps that boy in the face, I was like, oh. Boy, what they did now. Right? And then they said the hospital for retarded children.
Oh yeah.
Like if we would say that stuff now,
Be in some trouble.
I love this movie.
That was one of the things that really missed for me. For as messed up and believably, like I said, I like the actor's performance. For as believably,
he's already said that.
Did he? I don't know.
Repeating. For as believable as his performance was, the first scene of why he's so it missed for me. I mean, seeing
how that missed, that was messed up. How did that not? How? What do you mean miss? You can't put yourself in the place of that kid.
I can, but like
now, if you saw your mom and dad, Jared, you've been messed up. I'm not saying you're gonna go out and kill people, but you'd be messed up. Like that was a great scene.
I think they should have gave him some better motivation other than watching Santa hug his.
I don't think you need any more.
I could have used a little bit more blood on that throat cut at the one point. I mean, he slit this dude's throat, and there was like nothing. It was like a scratch, and he just dead. But I will watch this movie again. It was good, like a good seasonal vibe, and I liked that tone of movie.
Yeah, even if they're not great, this is just a good movie to watch at Christmas time.
So I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I gave it an 8.
I gave it a 5.
Woo, Jared down low.
I went down low.
All right, well, you know what time it is. It's time for Jared's Realm.
We're still calling it Jared's Realm.
You haven't come up with a name
I
yet.
said call it the Reading Rainbow of Death.
Oh, okay. Well, then you said no, and then you said don't call it that.
I didn't say that.
I don't know. Jared's Realm's really got a ring to it.
That's way easier to say.
I said
Jared's Rainbow of Death.
Jared's Rainbow of Death. Reading Rainbow of Death.
Jared's Reading Rainbow of Death.
It's not Jared's. You don't need my name in it.
It's got to be in there. I got to have a graphic of your head flying across or something with a rainbow.
Yeah, that's exact. See,
it didn't say LeVar Burton's Reading Rainbow.
Should have.
It didn't.
It did in my heart.
Call it LeVar Burton's Reading Rainbow of Death.
Okay, LeVar Burton's Reading Rainbow of Death.
Just call it Reading Rainbow of Death.
I like the LeVar Burton now. You've got me hooked on it.
Yeah, if we can't pick up, if it's going to be cheesy, regardless what it is, we might as well make it cheesy. So it's Reading Rainbow of Death.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a star with like a rainbow behind it. Like, isn't that's real, right?
That's the more you know, but still, you could do a nice rainbow.
And a song too. Reading Rainbow.
Yeah, butterfly in the sky.
Reading Rainbow.
I'll fly twice as fucking high.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, let's go to your segment.
So you get a good graphic.
Tell us about. Let's bring it up to us. Because this is a weird one. This is the second part of an interview.
Yeah, man. We're finishing the interview with John Rabb. The first half we kind of talked more about the small press scene, which was probably good for these because that's most of who I'm talking to. So everyone now has a better understanding of all of that. And in this interview, we delve into his actual work with Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre and his main character, Sheriff Kodo, and some of the other stories coming from that. So that's what we're going to hear.
Yeah, kick it.
What?
I'm having a stroke. Oh, fuck.
But yeah,
Anyway.
the interview did go long, so that's why there's a second part.
Take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow.
There's a lot of bad stuff out there. I tried to get into indie horror years ago, and it was hard because if you don't know anything, then you don't know what you're buying. And it reminded me of the early death metal days in the 90s. I was big in death metal and grindcore, and it was the same way. Like, it's the wild west of the extremes and imagination and what you're going to do. Sometimes you get really great musicians who just don't want to do the kind of standard stock formulaic route, and they do amazing things. Sometimes you get maybe not the most fantastic musicians, but who have these incredible ideas, and so that can come together into something really good too. Although the technical mastery is not there, the imagination is definitely there. And when you get into that kind of extremes to where if you're not familiar with it, it's harder to tell what's going on, you also get the big glut of people who have no idea and just want to do something. And like, it's just bad. It's bad copies of copies of copies where you just like, I know people always thought grindcore and death metal is just some guy screaming into a mic while everybody's slamming on instruments. It's not. There's a lot more to it. But there actually are a lot of bands that are terrible that do just that from the 90s because they didn't understand either. So it gets hard to navigate the waters. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this show and some of the other stuff. I tell everybody about the indie authors I'm reading is because these guys that I've been talking to, they're all very nice people. You find them on Facebook if you're interested in it. All I ever did with any of them was just send them a message and saying, hey, I'm buying your book on Amazon. I need to buy $15 more worth of stuff to get my $25 free shipping. I'm paying you. You kind of owe me what's good that I should buy.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
I mean, it's not putting much of an imposition on it, and I'm sure any of them would be happy to recommend 2 or 3 independent horror authors' books in trade for you buying theirs. So finding you, and Doug Rinaldi was the first one. He recommended Bartlett. It was before Creeping Waves came out. I bought Gateways. And that was what was weird when I first talked to you, was I went to your page and skipping over what everything was about, you're just like, hey, yeah, go to this page. This is where my books are sold. So I went there in Creeping Waves, and I bought Creeping Waves when it came out because I had just found Bartlett like 2 months before, and I was like, oh shit, I got that book. And that was actually when it hit me how hard what you guys do is, because I had stuff you put out and had no idea. You don't buy it. Most people, casual readers, don't buy. It's one of the big separations from music. I remember back in the day, you'd get into the underground stuff. You looked at the label it came out on, because the label put out similar stuff. You could almost always trust those labels, and so you just looked through their whole catalog. I had stuff by you, and Muzzleland Press wasn't something. It's right there on a book I'd just read, never even registered that I'd heard it. So you guys got a hard
that's a big challenge.
So I said I'm going to try not.
It's definitely.
Go ahead.
It's fine. It's definitely a challenge because, like you said, people don't associate necessarily a brand, especially a casual reader. Now, if you're someone like me who, frankly, 50% of what I read is small press, independent horror, then you start to recognize these things, and you start to build that brand loyalty as a reader. But for a small press, and I use a small, I'm actually probably technically like a micro press because it's literally just me, and sometimes my wife helps out with the editing. But it's really hard to build brand loyalty because someone wants to buy the author typically. If someone's kind of a voracious reader or really into the genre, when that you might also enjoy comes up on Goodreads or Amazon, they might take a risk on one of our books if it happens to pop up, if it sounds interesting enough. So that is definitely one of the big challenges. I think as an author, you have a little bit easier go of it because you start to build an audience. People read that book and they want to read more from you. So that's a little bit easier. So, trying to run a business model off multiple authors and multiple concepts, it's definitely a challenge. That being said, the few hundred people across the country who are interested in this scene, if you put out a quality product and products often enough, people will start to recognize you.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I said I was going to try not to talk much, just let you talk about you, but it's me, so
this is more comfortable for me. Thank you.
I will ramble, and all of that was what I was trying to use to segue into your books, which, as always, I got completely lost what I was talking about. So I'm just going to go right to it. I know we were talking earlier. You were talking about the imagination things. You haven't quite seen this done, and that's the appeal of indie press. And I've been telling many people about your books because they are to me, they are everything that is great that you can find in, like, whether you think about the old horror movies you watch where you get the indie horror movie that turned out to be gold, that like way better than it should be, you know what I mean? Or the band that just recorded something in their garage and put it out and it's just so much better than it should be, more than the sum of its parts. And that's what your books are to me, because they patch together everything I loved about so many genres growing up and do it in that way that somehow feels unique but extremely familiar. Like, you know what I mean? It's like I know all this stuff, but this is too new to me to be exciting. So for those of you that haven't ever talked to me and never heard me say these words, the Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre and the Lesser Swamp Gods of Little Dixie, they kind of, you have short stories and a bunch of other stuff too, but those two books kind of encapsulate pretty much, I think, about everything I've read other than Behind the Walls of Static, a short story in Spooklights. It kind of fits into this whole world. The Secret Goatman Spook Show might not too, but it could as well. But most of what you write kind of not based off the characters, but kind of feels connected universe-wise.
Sure.
Like this is your world. And I explain it's X-Files-y and conspiracy, but tone-wise, it feels like someone who loved Trauma and garbage 80s cinema, but who is really talented at their craft deciding to do it. So it's those ridiculous, it's like the crazy out there ideas. I've explained Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre to a few friends, and it's one of my favorite things to do. I don't want to spoil it to the readers, so I don't give everything away. But like when you get into extra-dimensional alien demons with making satanic moonshine to create a sacrifice, and you get into the martial, just running through all that, and it's like I believe even when I was reading it, there's a paragraph in it where Sheriff Kodo, who is the hero of the books, kind of. He runs down, someone says, so basically this is what you're saying's happening, and he's like, yes. And I posted the paragraph of the explanation on Facebook, and I was like, this is why I read. This is the greatest thing ever. Because it's these outlandish, just crazy out there ideas of someone who's clearly not worried about lowest common denominator or like a mainstream audience, but what makes it so great is it's rare to find someone. You don't need to go extreme to be a good writer. You are just a talented writer. So you don't find that blend very often, where someone who doesn't need all the extra, pizzazz and explosions and craziness, just on the merit of how good they are, they can tell a story. They usually, in about any medium, they usually like to do more accepted, I guess, types of things that people get. And when you find someone who has that kind of talent, that's like, no, we're going crazy with this shit. Like, to me, it's the best. And I know I've rambled on again. The main question I wanted to ask you, Sheriff Kodo, he's one of the greatest. I rank him with Jack Burton and Ash. He's one of the greatest action horror heroes I think I've ever read, and puts me in the mind of those Ghostbusters. But
yeah,
I wanted to ask you, and I don't think I ever have. That's so rare in horror that the story, other than the monster or the evil or you actually find the main focus of the book to be this kind of over-the-top hero. So it has that action feel. And was that a conscious effort? Or did you sit down and say, I want to do this? I want to do a story based on, because most of the time you get into horror, you're like, I want to write some monsters and they're going to kill some people in really terrible ways. But that's clearly, Kodo. So did you say, I want to write a story about a hero and set it in a horror world? Or did you just start writing these stories and he kind of emerged out of it, so you followed him?
So that's an interesting point you brought up earlier about the rarity of the horror hero being sort of memorable and interesting, because I think you are right. A lot of the focus in horror literature and cinema is on the monster or the supernatural force, and I think there's plenty to do with that. You know what I mean? But I think things can be memorable when you do have a character that you're actually rooting for that isn't just sort of a stand-in or an archetype. So a guy like Ash is popular. A guy like Peter Venkman is popular and memorable. In fact, all the Ghostbusters are really.
Yes.
They're memorable because they're interesting characters, and they're interesting to begin with, or amusing, or funny, or charismatic, and then they're in these absurd circumstances. And I do think that is rare because the focus does, admittedly, a shortcoming of my favorite genre is that the focus can just be on the menace, and then that's it. So if the menace is subdued, that character is suddenly less interesting. Kodo kind of sprung up sort of organically. I used to make backyard monster movies back in like high school and college, and I wrote a character in a movie that we were making called The Blood Van. And the movie idea was the Red Cross is stealing people's blood in rural upstate New York. And that was the idea. And so that was, again, focusing on the menace, right? The monster, more or less. But as I'm writing it, I realized I wanted a law enforcement character, but I wanted him to be funny and interesting and dynamic. And as I was writing it, and then working with my partner at the time, my friend Colin, I developed this character, and he ended up kind of stealing the show. And then we had our friend Tarek play him, and people say, well, that's, like, he's so funny and charismatic. Obviously, you wrote the role just for him. And the truth was, I wanted him to play this character because I knew he could pull off the mannerisms and, kind of be funny and interesting. But I gave him all the best lines because as a backup, I was going to play him. Right. So it was a very selfish thing. I wrote the most interesting character kind of for myself as a backup. And we kept making movies for a few years where that character would show up. And, after college and then after grad school and coming home from the military, I wanted to get back into writing fiction. I'm writing horror fiction again. And I said, let's go ahead and revisit that character because he's really interesting. And whenever we showed those movies to people, whether it was my family or my friends or anyone else I could sucker into sitting down for 20 minutes to watch one of my god-awful movies, they always liked Kodo. He was always an interesting character. So I said, I'm gonna pick him back up again. So when I sat down to write the Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre, I had a story for a movie that we never ended up making, kind of in the back of my mind. I said, okay, I'll go ahead and make this the novel. And then I decided kind of early on to sort of reboot it in my own head. Because the people exposed to this character was like 150 people, right? So I was like, well, if I'm going to write a book, I can start from scratch. And as I was writing it, my intention was to have Richards as sort of the entry point for the reader into the world, right? So he's the guy coming home and encountering all this weirdness, and you kind of see things through his eyes for a while. And because Richards, like me, is a war veteran, and he came home, spent time with his parents. got a crappy job, was feeling lost. I expected like, oh, this character, has a lot of me in him. And while that's true, I realized by the end of the book, I had more in common with Kodo than I did with Richards. And that was because at the time I was pretty knee deep into conspiracy theory videos on YouTube. I was listening to Alex Jones every day. I was, reading all sorts of weird conspiracy theory literature and books. So the stuff Kodo was kind of spouting off was what was floating around in my head. And pretty much everything he says is based on a conspiracy that's put out there by somebody else. But I kind of wrapped all that stuff up with this idea of a charismatic, batshit crazy, but so self-focused and determined individual. And this is kind of a weird thing to say, especially be curious what you think about this. But I often think about Kodo in terms of comparing him to a guy like Batman. He's an obsessive. Like, he doesn't behave like Batman, but he's obsessive. He has a goal and he has a worldview that's extremely strong, and he's not like a total like dick about it. Like, he doesn't, like call people sheeple necessarily, or he's not insulting about it. He just accepts that his worldview is true, and he'll do anything to address the problems as he sees them. But he's also extremely funny, and I know he's funny and I know he's absurd, but when I write the character, he's playing it straight. He's not joking around.
It's genuine.
Yeah, it's genuine. And as a writer, I am not writing him to be mocked. Like, oh, look how silly this crazy person is. Like, I'm just writing it straight. Like, this is who he is. And I think, and I hope that lends some authenticity to the character. So when you're reading it, even though he's clearly out of control, he's an alcoholic, he's kind of a bit of a degenerate, he means well. He has a mission, and he typically has a plan to address that mission, and he's going to do that even when the odds are completely stacked against him. So I think that makes him likable.
Yeah, and pretty much I agree. Like, that's what makes him good, that's one of the things where I was saying the fact that you're a good writer writing this, it makes it so much better, because Kodo is a character that, someone who has more ideas than maybe knowledge of what they're doing. It's the kind of character you could easily make him like a Kramer on Seinfeld,
right? Where
he's kind of a bit more one note, coming in saying crazy, but you took the time to make him genuine, like as out there as he is and as nuts shit as he does, he's also a good person,
right?
Like, I mean, he ran for sheriff to help. I mean, he's running it out of his basement, but he did it because he wanted to help, and I think it's the kind of blindness he has to a certain thing, or maybe not blindness, but that Batman style singularity vision. Maybe he, to say someone is a great person because they run for sheriff and then run the sheriff's office the way he does out of his basement, in a very realistic way to look at it, you could be like, well, if you were a good person, you would say, I clearly shouldn't be running for sheriff. We should get someone else in here who can rebuild the department. But for him,
I have a host of mental illnesses that need to be addressed.
But for him, like, there's genuine intention, and what had happened before, I imagine, if you got into the deepness of it, would play into all of it. But he sees corruption, and the most important thing in his singularity is that we get rid of this corruption. Nothing can be better until we do that. And that's what he's doing. Even if he has to run it out of his basement, there's like a genuine, I'm going to do good for other people in it. Even if, like, his singularity blinds him to some glaringly obvious facts. And I think that's what makes the character more than just this kind of one note crazy person, is you do. And after I read Lesser Swamp Gods of Little Dixie first, then went back to Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre. Lesser Swamp Gods of Little Dixie, you actually get to see Kodo as a bit more coherent or understanding, because Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre is told from Abe's perspective more. So you get to kind of see, you get Kodo from from another person's view.
Mhm.
So when you're in his head, things he does make sense. When you're in a rational person's head, you get to see just what's and I'll be honest, the two together, Abe's. I've even went as far to notice lately, like Abe is a sidekick character, but I hate calling him a sidekick because he's a lot better character than like Robin. You know what I mean? Like he's not Batman's Robin. He is. He's. You know, he is what a true sidekick is, and then all the other sidekicks they've ever made are these kind of crappy sidekicks. Like he is good for Kodo to have around.
He is. Yeah, he's a straight man basically. He's sort of a Watson to a Holmes type of situation. Probably a better analogy would be Mulder. He's probably like Scully to Mulder.
Yes.
Like he's jaded and he's a bit cynical and he's a bit of a skeptic, but at the same time he trusts Kodo enough to sort of go along with it, or in his case at first. He's in an economic situation where this is the best job he can get, so he's just gonna make the best of it.
But yes. Anyways, the two together, Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre is the one I tell everyone to start with. That's a fantastic view into the world. I reread Lesser Swamp Gods after Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre, and I actually was able to appreciate it more. But Kodo, just as Kodo, I think comes off more entertaining in the Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre because he has Abe. And so there's that. The Lesser Swamp Gods of Little Dixie makes Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre better actually too, because then you can see Kodo being this crazy person but understand there's a grounding in it too. So the two work together really, really great. So
well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And I actually wrote Lesser Swamp Gods intentionally so that you didn't have to read the first book to get it.
Yeah, and I will. That, like I said, I read that one first, and
I read it, and I remember I was at work when I got that in the mail, and I had it with me at work, and I started it, and I finished it that night when I got home from work. I read that one in a day because I couldn't stop.
Perfect.
And it was because that was in the first batch that I had got for you, and I was like, oh man, this is what I've been waiting to read for a long time. And before I had actually talked to you, Bartlett and Rinaldi were the only other two independent authors that I have read. And I mean, they are both great I think they're both great in what they do. Doug reminds me of very Exorcist 3 90s horror, kind of straightforward, only with a bit more out there ideas, that independent spirit. But it's that. Bartlett, of course, I don't know, Bartlett feels more literary, maybe, to me. Like, he definitely has the out there ideas, but and you, I mean, I grew up on Evil Dead 2, Big Trouble in Little China, Ghostbusters, and then like trashy 80s horror movies. But I also grew up, my Barker and King and Lovecraft, and a lot of the horror that I read was a bit more like, especially Lovecraft, and was a bit more literary. I mean, I hear people knock his stuff. I'll hear other people be like, no, this is literature. I don't know, something about Lovecraft feels more pompous and pretentious, but in that, not in a bad, I don't mean it in a bad way, just that it has that air of, this is more than trash literature. This isn't. And you were able to kind of wrap all of it, just everything up in one book. And so that I was really excited to have you on here. And actually, my book collection has grown by an entire shelf since meeting you.
Well, that's good. I like to hear that.
Pretty much all, like, I looked over at it the other day, and it's Brian Smith and Matt Bartlett and Murr Winery and anthologies, Muzzleland Press stuff, and there's a big chunk of Rinaldi's, but pretty much everything else, everyone that I've been reading, Sean M. Thompson, Alex Smith. I mean, I got Hive, which is a Muzzleland Press book, but I even ended up buying The Berserk, which was another one of his, I believe, before that. Like,
yeah,
99% of what I've got in the last few months has just come from you being like, read these, because here are names. Go read them.
Yeah, right. Well, that's good, man. I'm glad we're sort of on the same wavelength there. It's interesting you talk about reading through my book in one sitting. I actually purposely write to respect the reader's time. I want to write a page turner. And you talk about Ghostbusters and these 80s movies. Those are absolutely all influences on me. Basically, when I write, I sit down and I try to recreate the feeling of fun and yes, fear, but more importantly, fun and interest and excitement that I get from watching, those old films. Or reading Clive Barker for the first time. That's what I'm trying to replicate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'll say that's I've heard. There's been a couple authors I've read that I've heard it said as a bit more in a negative, and maybe even in their stuff, it's true because it's a bit too far. But that's another thing that I like about a lot of your work is it feels cinematic. Not to the point. I've read some people's stuff where it's to the point that it doesn't feel like I'm reading a book anymore. and maybe then it gets a little but I like that. It feels when I was reading your work, if I can see this as a movie in my head, 90% of all of it, it's all just playing as a movie, and I like because it calls me back to those things that I loved when I was a kid, and it really captures all the fun of it, only in a way that I can appreciate more as an adult now.
Yeah, that's definitely intentional, but it's also sort of natural. Like the stories I responded to the most have that sense of excitement or fun to them. John Carpenter movies are fun to watch.
Yes,
like they're terrifying, but they're fun to watch. They're interesting. They're crafted in such a way where you want to see and find out what happens next, and that's kind of how I think of story. And people who say, well, cinema should be cinema and literature shouldn't be cinematic because it's something different. Like, that's fine. I like stuff like that too. But as for me, when I'm writing, I want the reader to be hooked. I want the reader to be interested. I want the reader to go on this insane journey with me and come out the other end, terrified, covered in slime and thrilled, and just really enjoyed it. Like coming off an old rickety spook house ride where you just laughed your ass off, but had a great time and you can't wait to get back on again.
And I think that is a fantastic explanation of your work that if I were better with words, I would have used in last episode when I tried to explain it. Looks like we've went on a little long. This interview is probably going to be cut into 2 pieces. I know Frank's been putting out every other week extras. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how he'll edit it, whether he'll do half and half or the bulk meat and potatoes and cut out the rambling and then excerpts in the off episode, but I imagine it will all get used. And before we go, I will, of course, want to thank you for being on. And before we go, go ahead and tell people what is out now. I know I talked about Terror in 16 Bits a little bit, but let people know what's out now, what's coming, and where to find you.
Yeah, but before we do that, I kind of want to kiss your butt a little bit. So Mississippi Bones is a band that came up on Pandora, I think, randomly, and I like the sound and the rhythm. And then I'm listening to the lyrics, and I'm like, I think he's singing about Blade Runner, And then I'm like, wait a minute. And then this is a song about Star Trek. And then this is a song about Ghostbusters. This is definitely a song about Ghostbusters. Yes. In fact, it's not a song about Ghostbusters. It's a song about Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Which scores extra points for me because I love that movie. So, I'm thrilled that you like my books and you kind of get it. And speaking to you, I know you're my ideal reader because it's interesting. Like listening to Mississippi Bones, like these guys are speaking my language, or we definitely have the same cultural touchstone. So it's kind of cool when someone like me, I admired your band's work, that you ended up liking my my writing as well, because I did listen to some Mississippi Bones when I was writing Lesser Swamp Gods, Little Dixie. So like that, I definitely would listen to that music a little bit and come up with ideas. So it's definitely cool that you can connect with someone who's kind of on your same wavelength.
Yes, it's been great, and I've already been telling people we're teaming up on Mississippi Bones' next album.
Indeed.
And it is going to be one of the greatest things ever. I think.
Yep, and I owe you. I got to write you something this weekend, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. So I can't wait.
And then go ahead and tell people where to find you and what else is coming out.
Yeah, so Muzzleland Press has a website. You can find us at muzzlelandpress.com. Even if you screw up the spelling, just Google it. You'll find it. You can also find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. And if you look me up on Facebook, you can send me a message or just send me a friend request, as long as you're not like an Iranian spy bot or a porn model pasted over some nonsense, randomly, alphabet numeric number generated name. I'll probably accept your friend request. My books from Muzzleland Press, the latest one is Terror in 16 Bits. It's an anthology. It's on Kindle and paperback. You can find it at our online store and on Amazon, of course. As for my personal work, Lesser Swamp Gods and Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre are both only 99 cents for Kindle, so I make it easy. If you like it, great. You got a good deal for $1. If you hate it, it's only 99 cents. You're out. And,
if you hate it, shame on you.
Yeah, well, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much, John, and I guess I still haven't figured out the end of these. I haven't even got a name yet.
You don't have a name yet. They keep saying it's like Jared Reed's or something, right?
Yeah. I might end up going with Reading Rainbow of Death.
Yeah, no, I like that one. Yeah, that one's good.
So who knows? But that's the interview with Jonathan Rabb. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Thanks for stopping by.
He called back in.
Merry Christmas.
Just now.
Merry Christmas.
He just left physically.
Merry Christmas, John. He also said to make sure Frank cuts out my vaping.
Yeah, that's what he said.
It is bad.
It
jolts me now when I hear it.
On to our third feature film for this Christmas bonanza. This is motherfucker.
I might just pull a rating out of my ass on this one because I don't know.
I've been interested. You made that little comment. Question? Whose pick was Rare Exports?
Yeah, it got me.
Yeah,
like I didn't
see that coming, did you?
That is true.
Rare Exports. Come on, what are we doing now?
Hit it up.
In the depths of the Korvattunturi Mountains,
Finland,
486 meters deep, lies the closest
the
closest ever guarded secret. What? What?
Finish.
The time has come to dig it up. The Christmas everyone will believe in, Santa Claus. Oh, okay.
So they find something in a mountain.
I'm thinking that this.
They find something in a mountain.
I'm thinking that this synopsis here was.
Say it into the mic.
Was translated. It was translated.
Let's just start that all over again, Frank. Give that one a go again.
Leave that one in.
Leave it. I'm leaving it in.
You find out that in a mountain in Finland that Santa's buried underneath.
They've discovered
a guy has hired a digging crew to come in and dig it up.
The real Santa Claus, not that Coca-Cola bullshit.
Not that fucking
that lied to us.
2-bit asshole with the rosy cheeks. But
real Santa that ripped little kids to pieces if they were bad.
One kid figures out what's going on, and
Petre. What's his name? Petre.
I'll tell you what, man, that kid goes running around out in that snow without no pants on, like it ain't shit.
Yeah.
He don't give 2 fucks.
Fucking wolf pits everywhere.
Tidy whities.
Them people know how to handle cold.
Wolf pits all over the place. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie overall. I don't think that the penises at the end were necessary.
Jump right to the penis. Huh?
You can't fucking look at a bunch of naked old men in the movie. He's fucking it. You can't expect me.
I can at least tell what they were.
They were elves.
Look, all right. So let's back up a little bit. So they discover the real Santa. They dig him out. They learn that he's actually one of Santa's helpers. He's not actually the Santa Claus.
Yeah, because the people dug. The digging team digs Santa out and disappears. In the movie, they make you think that this guy that looks like an old withered Santa Claus, what we think of Santa Claus, is the Santa Claus.
Right.
And they show you a scene where all these people are just getting attacked, but you don't see who's doing the attacking. You find out
that they actually found Santa, and Santa is like a 2-story tall. You don't see him in the movie.
They're very disappointed.
But you got a 2-story
Very
tall block of ice with giant horns sticking out. They lead you to believe that it probably looks like the idea of Krampus.
I'm guessing.
Only about 2 stories tall, and the kids have been disappearing. Petrie finds out.
All the kids, all their heating.
Yep.
The ovens,
anything that warms,
blow
and the
dryers.
kids. And you find out that this old guy that looks like Santa is actually one of his elves.
It's one of Santa's helpers.
And
so all the naked,
one of many.
All the naked old men, Santa's helpers.
So there are a bunch of naked old men who are Santa's helpers.
But yes,
who all
there
look like
is
what we think Santa looks like.
And they're lot of old man penis.
There's like
they're
probably
trying
12,
to thaw
like
him.
12 total, I think.
I would guess
No,
more
there's
than
more
that.
than that.
I mean, at one point they're all running.
Yeah,
You just see-
there's a herd. I mean, they heard
You
them.
don't really notice.
They heard
I guess
them.
you're watching it. You were watching it on a big ass TV with the Blu-ray,
right?
And zooming in on the penis.
Yeah, I paused it.
I
and-
just
If
I
I
can
couldn't,
deal with the
if I
running.
couldn't see it, I blew it up.
some of them were, well endowed. Some of them you had to zoom in a little bit.
Whenever they're flying that helicopter with the kids over everything, and that horde of old men, that's hilarious. But when they were washing them at the end to sell them, first of all, you cannot sell a man. You can't do it.
It's a
dude.
Christmas tale. This is a tale.
So I'm assuming that they were selling reindeer, right? That was their first.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's because the herd of reindeer have all died.
yeah.
And that's
Petrie.
Petrie's father and the other people. They herd reindeer, and probably Petrie's father's a butcher. I'm guessing they sell the meat, they sell the pelts, they keep some of the meat. It's just how they make their money. All the reindeer end up slaughtered, and so they're kind of angry with this.
They're
blaming the company, telling them they owe them $83,000, and that's when they go up in there to say, "You owe us," and find out everyone's gone.
Already dead.
I gotta say, the original concept.
Original.
Man. And I really enjoyed the relationship between the father and son.
Surprised me at every turn.
And I think everybody should see this at least once.
Yeah, it caught me at every turn. I didn't see anything coming, even to the end. At the end, they stop him from thawing out Santa. They blow him up and cut the horns off, I'm guessing, to sell. They're only, like Petrie's father and the other guys, their only motivation is just to get the money back that they lost on the reindeer being slaughtered. And they herd all these Santa's elves that look like Santa into their reindeer fence, and and then blow Santa up. And I'm thinking, okay, and once Santa blows up, the elves are no longer trying to get the kids anymore or do anything. So I'm thinking, okay, this is where you end. But then let's not leave out the whole ending. Then another surprise. They spend the next year training all of the Santa's helpers to be Santas,
to sell them,
and then crate them up and sell them all over the world.
I like how that's how he's validated. It's a tale, man.
It's a Christmas tale. You can do anything you want.
I liked it a lot. Everybody should see it. 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I found it hard to rate. I think I want to watch it again before I give it.
This is my third time.
Yeah, I want to watch it again before I give it a really solid rating. But I'm just gonna say 8. I really enjoyed it. I thought everybody does a great job in it. The funny stuff is funny. The crazy stuff is crazy. I was surprised and
I think
all the way through.
I imagine it's even funnier if you not having to read the subtitles and you can pick up one.
I forgot it was even subtitled.
Yeah, I guess we should mention that. That is
part
is
subtitled. There's some
but
English. In it.
there's the little stuff that we can't hear in their language, their sarcasm and stuff like that.
My thing is I was left wanting more.
Yeah.
I was left wanting a little more for the setup. What they set up was really good. Santa getting loose, maybe. I think this one would have
wanted to
been
see the Santa
a
really
dark
bad.
where a dark song went Angel in full regalia, and we're like, oh, that's not right. I think that's the move you make in this movie. I think this movie you go for that full just over
Might
the
have fucked
top.
it up though, Jared.
It's a Christmas tale. It's feel good.
But and that's what I said. I want to watch it again a couple more times.
Yeah,
that's just how I was. That's
yeah,
what I
I'll
was
watch
left
it
with.
again.
I
I
was
gave it
left wanting a little more than it did.
I wrote down 7, but I've now convinced myself it's an 8.
Yeah, the actors are great. Like
Are they? That's the thing. I couldn't tell if they were or not.
I think they are. That's what I said. I think they're even better than what we can actually even tell.
They play. A lot of the comedy just comes from how straightforward and, well, we just got to deal with this shit that they play everything.
The timing and how cool they are about everything.
Yeah,
they're getting ready to cut that old dude open. They put him on the butcher block.
Yeah.
And get,
This is how we got to do. I mean, and they're just really kind of straight. They're like, meh, straightforward.
Imagine
about
though,
stuff.
you've got you got a son. Imagine if that happened to you and your son. Your son's like, Dad, don't worry about it. I got this shit. I'm gonna hold on to this fucking thing full of kids, and we're gonna fly over the fucking winter wonderland on a helicopter.
I mean, at that point,
yeah, well, sure, son.
all the
See you
stuff
later.
that's going down.
I'm gonna blow up this Santa Claus.
But yeah, I think I'd give it a higher one if they went a little bit more with it. There's a little bit. That's what I don't know. I don't know if it's a little bit slow because I can't think of any parts that I was like, I wish something more was happening here. Everybody did a great job. I just know I was left feeling like I wanted.
Good.
Like
all three of these Christmas movies, I think you guys should watch.
But yeah, I definitely recommend Black Christmas and this one. Christmas Evil, I wouldn't say don't watch it, but I don't think you're missing a lot.
I think you should watch all of them.
I don't think you're missing a lot if you skip that one.
Watch it.
Anyways, thanks for checking it out. And doing
Merry
the
Christmas,
thing.
guys.
Merry Christmas. I hope you have wonderful holidays.
Southside 6 in Dunkirk, Ohio has ground ball grape, Big League Chew.
Big League Chew.
I think
that's the stuff right
we're
there.
going to look into sponsorship.
Yeah,
from
I'm
them.
sure that's
Big League Chew's going to be all over it. We're going to be wearing hats.
See what year it was made.
Yeah, it don't feel
there's
soft.
There's a Facebook thing on it. Dude.
Get on the Facebook.
It don't feel soft.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Facebook.com.
Type in
/Big League Chew.
Type
Check it
in
out.
last
Like
roundup
it.
horror show product code.
Yeah.
LRHS.
LRHS. Let them know that you want them to sponsor us.
Yeah. Say Big League.
Let them know that
We'll
we
chew
sent
it
you.
all episode.
Tell them last roundup horror show sent you. You want a 10% discount.
Yeah.
If it works, let us know.
Next time.